Yeah. After killing the wall of flesh, your world goes into hard mode. This causes the corruption to be able to spread and spawns in 2 new biomes, the Hallow and the Astral Infection. I open up the loot bag the wall of flesh drops and eat the demon heart, which gives me an extra accessory slot. Nice. I also see I have been gifted with a summoner emblem, so I immediately put that on. I head back up to the surface for some damage control to find where the new biomes are spawned in, and to my shock and luck, the corruption mostly spawned inside the quarantined area, so I'll only need to cleanse underneath it. Unfortunately, the Hallow has taken over the desert. The sand is going to make it one of the most painful experiences I'll ever have to deal with when I have to cleanse all of that. And the Astral Infection has taken over a large chunk of the ice biome. Wonderful. Head back over to the bag salesman and buy another wall of flesh bag. Yes. With the last of the money that I have, and shed a small tear as we get the firecracker whip on only my second attempt. I once again give my entire life saplings to the Goblin Tinkerer to reforge it to Legendary. I think it's about high time to go and start collecting some epic pre-hard mode loot before the new creatures decide to add me to the Epstein victim list. First up is a new sexy set of armor, so I head down into a spider's nest in order to kill black recluses for their fangs. I make the armor and the new weapon, however I decide to stick with the imps for the time being as they have more range for me to stay the fuck away from anything trying to touch me in my no-no zone. I then summon up a goblin army in order to get my hands on the first Shadow Flame that drops from the newly spawning goblin warlocks. It's a great accessory, giving me another minion slot and affecting anything my minions damage with Shadow Flame. An all-around good upgrade. Unfortunately, it takes me 3 fucking events to drop. However, whilst fighting the goblins, I obtain a mechanical eye from someone, and I think, hey, the wall of flesh wasn't that bad. Let's see how it goes. It went very badly. The things I'm going to do to those goddamn twins when I get my hands on them will make Al-Qaeda's 2001 twins incident look like child's play. After this, I decide to go get some actually decent wings, so I kill a couple of the highly endangered wyverns for their souls of flight. I then down a Zerg potion in order to steal from the local pixie population. Don't worry, they don't have mouths, so they can't report us for our crimes, and thus we will walk free, with a mountain of pixie dust, which we will turn into the absolutely hottest set of wings we can possibly make. Now at this point, I decide that I want a sanguine staff, and thus I set my eyes upon the Dread Nautilus. So I get all of the needed gear ready and head over to the ocean to summon one up, and almost immediately realize that I am very, very underprepared and quickly get served up on a fancy surface food restaurant. It's like a rich person's seafood restaurant, but for the violent underwater monsters. So I head over to the frozen wasteland to try and get myself an ancient ice chunk, and the realization dawns on me, when absolutely no ice clasp is spawned, that the game no longer is a force of good, but now wants to laugh at my expense by never, ever giving me what I goddamn want. Eventually, I just give up, after about 30 minutes of no ice clasper spawns, and make myself a caustic staff instead. Now, I decide to summon up my least favourite boss in existence, Skeletron Prime. I hate Skeletron Prime so damn much. In fact, this playthrough has made me hate both these bony pricks so much, I removed all my bones in real life. I am now just a pile of skin and organs hooked up to a Tesla Neuralink. Truly, if I ever find out Skeletron Prime has a significant other, I am going to make sure she never thinks of him ever again. Anyway, I get publicly embarrassed by that mechanical no-dick having flying cunt. For legal reasons, I cannot continue this joke. I'm about to move the wizard into the Hallows so I can buy a Rod of Discord when I see the goblins are invading. At this point in time, anytime I see that text in the bottom of my screen, whether it be the goblins, the gangrene-infested pirates, or a motherfucking blood moon, I'm going to take a shot of straight bleach. I don't make the rules. That's just how it needs to happen. What did I just fucking say? For fuck's sake! I make the most of a bad situation and fish for another Dread Nautilus, hoping the caustic staff can help me kill the thing. However, to pretty much no one's shock, I get rolled in front of all of its weirdly shaped friends. How embarrassing. But I was looking at the wiki, And I found out that life fruit spawned before you beat the mechs in Calamity, so I run to the jungle to find some, and I only got interrupted once by a stray queen bee. I take the spare life fruit that I got over to the Shimmer to get the upgrade from that, and have it over to the ice again, not to look for an ice clasper this time, but for a frozen golem so I can craft myself up a cool whip to allow me to whip stack. Now that I've got some upgrades, I wanted to see if I could fight the Queen Slime to get the blade staff, as usually she isn't all that difficult, so I summon her up and instantly have a stroke. What the fuck was that? She's supposed to be the first boss of hard mode, and the fight looked like that. I have developed a severe case of chronophobia. Truly, from now on, when my parents tell me to think about the future, I am going to have a very severe public outburst. I try and fight her again and get further, only to find out that it gets worse. Much worse. I said, hey, maybe another 4-hour grind isn't too bad. So I head into the underground ice caves to look for an ice clasper, and get a nice surprise when one spawns pretty damn quickly, and it even drops what I need it to. Wonderful. When I tell you these iced out swag-ass minions eat some motherfucking ass, I mean it. I summoned up Skeletron Prime just to test out the DPS, and this happened. The trauma of spending quite literally 4 months of my life trying to kill this boss on my Xbox 360 when I was 10 has been ever so slightly decreased, as it was quite fun and easy to beat his skull in drunk Australian dad style. Now that the steampunker has arrived, I buy a Clentaminator in order to purify the corruption. God, it took a while. And looking back on it now makes me physically irate, as I found out later there's an item that just does the whole process for you. Anyway, I got sick of doing that, and I tried to fight some more bosses. I got a mechanical worm and an eye to summon the 2 mech bosses, and the spawners for Cryogen and Queen Slime, as they were the next kind of group of bosses on the list. I got absolutely stomped by the Destroyer and Cryogen, but I do get pretty close to beating the twins. But I decided to go get some shark fins so that I can craft the Aquatic Scourge summoner, and I accidentally summoned down a heater whilst there. That went horribly. And it is kind of annoying too, as I figured out that I can just buy them from the operator NPC. Anyway, I summoned up the Aquatic Scourge and get wormed Rule 34 style. However, another blood moon starts up, and I get to fishing yet again to fight another Dreadnoughtalus. But this time my ice claspers absolutely tear ass yet again, as he gets turned into amazing seafood feast for my NPCs. Don't tell them that it was an abomination of a giant flying shellfish. I told them it was salmon. But he drops me an amazing sanguine staff. I summoned up the twins again, and I get so unbelievably close to killing them. I was getting a little frustrated at this point, and I went off to make some buildings, making tunnels in the underground areas, mainly to split up my world into sections, so if I miss any corruption, it couldn't get too out of hands. And then I fought the twins again. Another gamer dub under my belt. Riding this high, I attempted to beat the Destroyer, but I quickly realized I have my work cut out for me, as this thing is very fast, and very good at ramming into me at 1200 miles an hour, so I get wormed once again. But my anger at this is subdued a little bit, as I do manage to pull out another dub, this time over Cryogen. Time now to go on a mining session for some adamantite and titanium that spawn after you beat the twins, and also some cryonic ore to craft up a set of Daedalus armor and the ornate shield. I then brought some more loot bags from the loot bag NPC in order to get the glacial embrace, which I then take to fight the queen slime. goddamn wrong. Absolutely nothing can stop me. Good one. See, it was at this point that I had reached what I like to call progression locked. I can't really get too many better upgrades, and there was 4 bosses that I could reasonably kill, that being the Destroyer, which was probably the most important one, followed by the Calamitous clone. But I was also stuck trying to kill the Brimstone Elemental and the Aquatic Scourge. Like, genuinely, never in my goddamn life did I ever have the thought that Skeletron Prime and the twins would give me less trouble than Bad Dragon's newest mechanical, sensual abomination of a product, the Destroyer. Eventually, I managed to kill the Brimstone Elemental, which drops an accessory that summons the boss to fight for me. I won't be using this yet, but I will keep it on me as I use it to craft a pretty goddamn good accessory later. However, now is the time for me to make the worst decision of my life, as I decided to make a world arena. Oh, what in the purple fuck is a world arena? Just imagine for a second you have to dig from the surface, basically straight down to hell. And then you have to make it about 800 or 900 blocks long. And fill it with platforms. This took me, without an exaggeration, over 10 hours. I am never getting that time back. However, it did pay off as I was finally, with the help of a new weapon, managed to beat the Destroyer. Get bent, you useless
Holy
fucktard.
shit.
I genuinely hope you get melted
Finally.
down and turned into butt plugs and sold at furry conventions. Oh my fuck. Alright, now for some long-awaited game progression. I used the hallowed bars from the destroyer to make myself a Durandal and some hallowed armor. I then go into the underground jungle to mine up some chlorophyte to upgrade my pickaxe. I then use the souls that I've gained from the mech bosses to upgrade my boots into the angel treads. This was also around the time that I found that I can purify my whole world, so I did that. I then split my corruption box into 2 sections so that I could have a hallow and a corruption there, and I made myself a vengeful sun staff, which is also a nice upgrade. I then take all my new upgrades and I fight the Calamitas clone. I'm almost tempted to put the whole fight uncut here because it is easily the most fun boss I've fought yet, and also probably has one of the top 5 themes in the mod in my opinion. Temptation got the better of me. I did just leave the whole fight in. I did then go and buy some more loot bags so I can get myself the Entropy's Vigil, an amazing weapon that I quickly used to absolutely decimate the Aquatic Scourge. After this, I took some time to check off some mini-bosses. I did the Tier 2 Acid Rain, but I couldn't get Cragmore Maya to spawn. I also did the Old One's Army Tier 2 to kill the Ogre. And after those two had been ticked off the list, I set my eyes on the underground jungle to kill Plantera. I added some platforms to the underground arena that spawns naturally, and then I summoned her up. I did die quite a few times, but I did eventually beat her. Now that Plantera is dead, I head up to the Witch Doctor to buy some tiki armor. I also craft myself up a plantation staff that can summon up a miniature Plantera to fight for me. I head off into the dungeon to get some ectoplasm for a pumpkin moon medallion, and also get the Morning Star whip. I didn't get the whip this time, unfortunately, so I head over to the side of my base and summon up the pumpkin moon. That went pretty well. I got myself a Dark Harvest, which is a better whip than I currently have, and a lot of spooky wood to make myself some spooky armor. I also got a Necromantic Scroll, which I can combine into a pretty good accessory later down the line. And who can forget the best light pet you can get in the game, the Mini Pumpkin? I used the Summoner Emblem I've been wearing to combine with the Pygmy necklace and the scroll that I just got to make myself a Status's Blessing, which gives a fat increase in stats if I do have to say so myself. I also craft up some spooky wings and combine my ornate shield and the egg shield I made earlier to get the Asgard's Valor. After this, I'm feeling pretty confident, so I head into the jungle temple to fight Golem. I summon it up and get goddamn punted by his rocky ass. I feel degraded by this, not just because it's Golem, but also because I'm a bricklayer in real life, and a pile of muddy bricks should really not be turning me into this fine of a flesh slurry. I continue getting slaughtered by Golem, and the several other bosses in progression. The closest one I've been getting to beating was Anahita and the Leviathan. However, I then summon up the Frost Moon event, mainly just to check it off my list, but also to listen to this absolute banger that Relogic cooked up years ago. is the best track in Vanilla Terraria. Anyway, we've got that checked off now, and I went back to fighting more bosses, and I managed to take it down Astrum Aureus. With Astrum Aureus dead, I am able to get a Starburst core from the underground astral biome. I need this to craft another good accessory. However, I still need to beat Golem to do so. I get so unbelievably close to crumbling that brick shithouse of a boss, but unfortunately get stepped on. But on the next attempt, I do manage to succeed. With Golem's death, I am able to get quite a few decent upgrades. I take the pixel that he dropped into the depths of the abyss and get absolutely fucking molested by a giant worm that clearly does not like it when I want to move slightly quicker with the Rod of Discord and does 1.2 million damage. What the fuck? What? Anyway, I head back down, and I don't use my Rod of Discord this time, in order to mine up some scoria ore, which I can mix with perennial and cryonic bars to make life alloys. I also, at this point, figured out that the Cragmork Mire only spawns in the water, and I kill it and get the items that I need from it. I then combine it with the jelly-charged battery, the Starburst core, and some life alloy to make the Star-Tainted Generator, which is an absolute fat stat increase. I also found out about a new weapon called the Resurrection Butterflies, and damn, these were also a pretty damn good upgrade. I take all my new gear over to the dungeon in order to summon up the Lunatic Cultist, and compared to the vanilla fight, this is so much better. Like, it's actually challenging when you don't know what you're doing, and he's not a complete pushover. So I did struggle with him for a bit, but I did in the end prevail. I head straight for the Stardust Pillar in order to get myself a Stardust Dragon, which I immediately take to the ocean and fucking decimate Anahita and Leviathan. After that absolute ass whooping, I cropped off the Heart of Elements. I now have 5 absolute baddies surrounding me at all times. I then go over to the ocean, this time to fight Fishron, and get pretty far, but I ultimately die. Now it was this point in time that I made probably the worst decision yet. I am going to attempt the Empress of Light, so I summon her up, and absolutely and horrifically drop a fat fucking log into my already quite soggy pants, as the Empress of Light looks me in the eyes with a very menacing smile and pulls out a 36-inch destroyer-shaped strap-on. Naturally, I fucking book it for the high heavens, but unfortunately, she catches me. I'm going to go fucking catatonic after what just happened to me. Though, I don't have time for therapy or processing my emotions. I have a block game to beat. I book it straight back to the ocean because I figure, hey, Fishron wings are fast, that'll help me. And immediately die to Fishron, who is literally on less than 1% health. I am going to get violently unwell from now on when anyone mentions seafood around me. After adding ichthyophobia to my ever-growing list of anxiety-inducing fears, I go back to the ocean to make myself a Fishron fillet. You can't trigger my fear of sea life when I deep fry it, right? At this point, the only boss I can actually fight to get any meaningful progress is the Empress, and we all know how that went. So I go and kill the rest of the pillars and attempt the Moon Lord once again, and gain another new phobia, this time being claustrophobia, as I found out that Stepbro Moonlord has locked me in a box to do with what he pleases, and I get swiftly lasered. At this point, I attempted to do what my dad has always told me to do, and quote, just get good. And dodge, but I realized quite quickly that I do not do enough damage, and I start slowly getting a sinking feeling in the bottom of my stomach, not too dissimilar to what I imagine someone feels when they're told that their entire family has just died in a gruesome terrorist attack, as I realize I'm going to have to fight and beat the Empress of Light. Do you guys remember when I was complaining about Skeletron? This is so much worse. Oh, I'm actually going to go fucking crazy. This is like the Skeletron fight if he was on 14 kilos of pure fucking crack and a side of 12 dozen mushrooms. This was the worst thing I've fought yet. Probably shouldn't be saying that again, because I've yet to fight any of the post-Moonlord bosses, but I'm pretty damn confident in that statement. My boss log says I've attempted 56 times, so yeah, not too fun. However, I did finally do this. Finally! Holy shit! Watching that while editing actually made me hard. Anyway, now that we've obtained a Kaleidoscope and the almighty Terra Prisma, I head back into the Moonlord and immediately get decimated by an attack I've never seen before. Fuck! Am I mad? Extremely. However, I've never seen that attack before, which means progression, so I'm also quite a bit happy. After getting squished by giant eyeballs a few too many times, I rage quit the game for the night. I went to my IRL job for a couple hours, came home, and I don't know what was in those brownies my boss gave me, but I came back first try. did, finally. Well, that's it for part 2, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was all up to your expectations. I'd like to give a very heartfelt thank you to everyone who has decided to subscribe and like since the last video. And all the comments, appreciate all of them too. The growth was insane. And as I said before, I really hope this video was up to your standards. Part 3 should be out soon if you want to keep an eye out on that. You could subscribe and press the notification bell to make sure you know. Or I also have a Discord server that I notify everyone when I upload. Links in the description for that. But anyway, thank you all to you absolute beasts who watch this, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace. Side note, if the Empress ever wanted to, I don't care how many times she's killed me in this stupid game. Would.